The Argentines nebula glowed with the soft light of distant stars, its ethereal tendrils stretching across Sector 9 like the arms of some celestial octopus. Squad Captain Sarge Kavar leaned back in his command chair aboard Outpost Selyen, fighting off the urge to doze as another routine shift stretched into its 10th hour. The screens before him showed nothing but the usual cosmic background radiation and the occasional micrometeorite ping against the station's shields. Sector 9 was, by all accounts, the most boring assignment in the Zul Empire. Located at the far edge of Imperial territory, it harbored no habitable planets, no trade routes, and certainly no threats worth monitoring. Yet here they were, a full security detail stationed at this godforsaken outpost on the slim chance that something might emerge from the void beyond. Another exciting day in paradise. Ellery muttered from her station, her 3 pairs of eyes fixed on the signal analysis screens. The young science officer had been assigned to Selyen fresh from the academy, full of enthusiasm for deep space mysteries. That enthusiasm had lasted approximately 2 weeks before the crushing monotony of their daily routines set in. Kavar grunted in acknowledgement, not bothering to lift his head from where it rested against his hand. Run the standard scan protocol. Maybe we'll get lucky and spot a rogue asteroid. Running now. Ellery's fingers danced across her console, initiating the high-resolution sweep that would probe the surrounding space for anything out of the ordinary. The scanner hummed to life, its energy beams sweeping across Sector 9 in a methodical pattern that would cover every cubic kilometer of empty space. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, just as Kavar was about to suggest breaking for their midday meal, Ellery sucked in a sharp breath. "Captain, I'm getting something." He straightened immediately. "What kind of something?" "I'm not sure." Her fingers flew across the console, refining the scan parameters. "It's faint, almost lost in the background noise. Could be a glitch in the system." "Run it again," Kavar ordered, his earlier lethargy forgotten. "Full power this time." The scanner powered up once more, its beam now concentrated on the specific region where Ellery had detected the anomaly. The results came back moments later. Negative. Nothing but empty space. "Must have been equipment error," Kavar said, though something in his gut disagreed. "Make a note in the log and run a diagnostic on the array." Ellery nodded, but didn't immediately comply. Instead, she continued staring at her screen, her hands hovering uncertainly over the controls. "Captain, I've been studying signal patterns for 3 years. That wasn't equipment error. Then what was it? I don't know, but it wasn't random noise." She pulled up the original scan data, highlighting a particular waveform. "See this frequency band? It's archaic, something our current tech barely recognizes anymore. Whatever generated that signal was using transmission protocols that haven't been common for centuries." Kavar frowned, leaning over her shoulder to examine the data. "You're saying someone out there is using ancient technology? Or someone who existed in ancient times is still out there?" The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. In the vast history of the Zul Empire, only one species had been known to use those particular transmission frequencies: humans. But according to every historical record, humanity had vanished from the galaxy long ago, either extinct or retreated so far that they might as well be. "Contact Central Command," Kavar said finally. "Request permission for an extended, deep scan of the sector." The response from Command was predictably vague. "Investigate further, report any findings, maintain standard protocols." It was the bureaucratic equivalent of a shrug, leaving the decision in Kavar's hands while absolving higher authorities of responsibility if something went wrong. As the hours passed, Ellery continued her analysis, growing increasingly convinced that they had stumbled upon something significant. She compared the signal anomaly against every known pattern in the database, but nothing matched. Whatever had created that brief flicker on their sensors existed outside their understanding. "Look at this," she said, calling Kavar over once more. She had enhanced a frame from the original scan, pushing the resolution to its absolute limits. The image was grainy and distorted, but there was something there, a shape, long and thin, visible for just a fraction of a second before it vanished. Could be debris, Kavar suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. No, the dimensions don't match any natural object. And that profile... Ellery trailed off, her voice dropping to a whisper. It doesn't match any Zul design either. It's alien. The word sent a chill through the command center. Kavar looked at the image again, trying to find some mundane explanation, but the more he studied it, the more certain he became that Ellery was right. They had discovered something extraordinary. Continue monitoring. If it appears again, I want full spectrum analysis immediately. Over the next several days, the atmosphere aboard Outpost Sullian changed dramatically. The usual boredom gave way to tense anticipation as the entire crew became focused on finding that elusive signal again. Double shifts became the norm, with Ellery practically living at her station. The breakthrough came on the 5th day. The scanner picked up another anomaly, this one stronger and lasting several seconds longer. Ellery's enhanced images revealed more details. Not just a shape, but markings on what appeared to be a hull. Symbols that, when magnified and cleaned up, bore an uncanny resemblance to ancient Earth scripts. This can't be right, Kavar muttered, staring at the screen. Humans haven't had a presence in this sector for thousands of years. Maybe they never left, Ellery replied. Or maybe they've come back. The implications were staggering. If humans still existed, if they had ships capable of evading Zul detection for centuries, what else might they have developed? The old stories painted them as aggressive, expansionist, their disappearance from the galaxy scene as either a retreat or an extinction event. But if they were still out there, still advancing their technology while the rest of the galaxy believed them gone. Central Command is sending a reconnaissance team, Kavar announced after receiving the latest communication. 3 ships, Arrowhead, Stellian, and Breeze. They'll arrive in 12 hours. When the scout ships arrived, they brought with them an air of professionalism that contrasted sharply with the research-focused atmosphere of Outpost Sullian. Commander Vex of the Arrowhead took charge immediately, reviewing Ellery's data with sharp, calculating eyes. "We'll investigate the coordinates you've provided," he said, his voice crisp and authoritative. "Maintain communication silence unless we signal distress. If this is what you think it is, we can't risk alerting them to our presence." The 3 ships launched within the hour, their sleek forms disappearing into the void as they headed toward the region of space where the anomalies had been detected. Kavar and Ellery monitored their progress from the outpost, tracking their telemetry as they approached the coordinates. Arrowhead to Tzilian. Commander Vex's voice crackled through the comm system after 2 hours of flight. "We're detecting significant energy distortions ahead. Proceeding with caution." "Copy that." Arrowhead, Kavar responded. "Keep us updated." The next transmission came 20 minutes later, and this time there was tension in Vex's voice. "We have visual confirmation. There's definitely something here. A ship, massive, dark hull, no navigation lights. No response to our hails." "Can you identify the design?" Kavar asked. "Negative. It's unlike anything in our database. The hull markings are partially obscured, but they don't match any known civilization script." Ellery leaned forward, her excitement palpable. "Ask him to get closer. We need clear images of those markings." "Arrowhead, can you approach for better visual confirmation?" A pause. "Affirmative. Moving in now." The next few minutes passed in tense silence. Then, suddenly, alarms blared through the command center as telemetry from Stellian went haywire. "Sullian, this is Stellian." The pilot's voice was panicked. "We've lost main power. Systems are..." "Wait, they're coming back online." "When the void just happened." "Arrowhead, report." Kavar demanded. "Unknown energy pulse," Vex replied, his professional calm strained. Stellian was closest to the target when it occurred. "We're detecting increased activity from the unknown vessel." "Pull back," Kavar ordered. "Establish a safe perimeter and continue observation." "Negative. We need to investigate further." Launching probe drone. Kavar wanted to object, but Vex had operational authority. All they could do was watch as the drone's telemetry streamed back to their screens. The tiny craft approached the massive dark ship, its cameras capturing increasingly detailed images of the hull. Those markings, Ellery breathed, enhancing the feed. "Captain, look at this." The symbols were clearer now, arranged in patterns that triggered something in the deep archives of Zul historical records. Ellery ran them through translation algorithms, her hands shaking slightly as the results appeared on screen. "Earth," she whispered. "Those are pre-millennium Earth symbols." Before Kavar could respond, the drone's feed cut out. "Arrowhead to Tsillian. We've lost contact with the drone. The unknown vessel is changing position." "Get out of there," Kavar barked. "All ships, retreat to safe distance now." "Negative, we can handle this." "Moving to intercept dash." The transmission cut off abruptly. All telemetry from Arrowhead vanished from their screens. "Stellian, Breeze, report." Kavar shouted. "This is Breeze," came a shaky voice. "Arrowhead has been captured. There's some kind of gravitational anomaly pulling them toward the unknown vessel. We're maintaining distance, but, Captain, we need reinforcements." Kavar immediately contacted Central Command, his report urgent and unvarnished. Within hours, the decision came down from General Grias himself. A full battle group will be dispatched to Sector 9. The Zul Empire would not tolerate this threat, whatever it was. The battle group arrived 2 days later. 5 destroyers led by Admiral Farah's flagship, each bristling with the latest Zul weapons technology. The Admiral was confident to the point of arrogance, dismissing the loss of Arrowhead as incompetence rather than a sign of superior technology. "We'll show these ghosts what real power looks like," Farah declared as his fleet moved into position. Kavar and Ellery were ordered to accompany the fleet as advisors, their knowledge of the initial encounters deemed potentially valuable. From the bridge of Farah's destroyer, they watched as the massive dark ship came into view. It was even larger than the images had suggested, a monolithic presence that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship hung motionless in space, showing no reaction to the approaching Zul fleet. "Open a channel," Farah commanded. "This is Admiral Farah of the Zul Empire. You are in violation of our sovereign territory. Identify yourselves immediately or be destroyed." Silence. Farah's face darkened. Again, the message was repeated, broadcast on every known frequency. Still no response. "Admiral," one of the sensor officers called out. "We're detecting energy fluctuations from the target. It's powering up. All ships, battle stations." Farah ordered. "Prepare to fire on my command." "Wait," Ellery interjected. "Admiral, we don't know what we're dealing with. If this really is a human vessel dash, humans are extinct or irrelevant." Farah cut her off. "This is our space." Fire warning shots across their bow. The destroyer's ion cannons discharged, brilliant blue energy bolts streaking through space toward the dark ship. They never reached their target. Instead, they seemed to bend around the vessel, dissipating harmlessly into the void. "Direct hit on their shields," the weapons officer reported, though his voice betrayed confusion. "Shields?" Farah scoffed. "They're using some kind of deflection technology. All ships, concentrate fire on my mark." The 5 destroyers unleashed a coordinated barrage, enough firepower to crack a small moon. Energy weapons and missiles converged on the dark ship, creating a spectacular light show that illuminated the surrounding space. When the glare faded, the dark ship remained untouched. "Impossible," Farah breathed. Then, the human ship responded. A single beam of light, so thin it was barely visible, lanced out from the dark vessel. It struck one of the Zul destroyers amidships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, silently, the destroyer split in two, its halves drifting apart with no explosion, no debris field, just clean separation. "By the void," someone whispered on the bridge. Ellery gripped Kavar's arm. "They're holding back," she said urgently. "Don't you see? They could destroy us all, but they're only demonstrating their capability." Farah wasn't listening. His face contorted with rage. He ordered the fleet to attack with everything they had. Weapons fire erupted from all ships, a desperate assault that achieved nothing but light up their own shields as the dark ship's defenses continued to absorb or deflect every attack. Meanwhile, Ellery noticed something on her console. "Captain, look at this." She had been monitoring background signals during the battle, and now she detected something new: transmissions, not directed at them, but emanating from the dark ship to points unknown. "They're communicating with someone," she said, "using the same archaic frequencies we detected before. Can you translate?" "Not fully, but it seems like they're reporting the situation." "Wait, there's something about Earth Command and Minimal Response Protocol." Another beam lanced out from the dark ship, disabling the weapons systems of 2 more destroyers without destroying them. The message was clear: we can end this whenever we choose. "Admiral," Kavar said, "we need to cease fire. They're not trying to destroy us." Far looked ready to order another attack, but the reality of their situation was undeniable. His fleet was being systematically neutralized, not destroyed. If these were indeed humans, they were operating with restraint that the Zul forces had not shown. "All ships, cease fire," Far finally ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "Fall back to defensive positions." As the Zul fleet regrouped, Ellery continued working on the transmissions. "I think I can open a channel using their frequency," she said. "It might allow us to communicate." "Do it," Kavar said before Far could object. Ellery's fingers flew across her console, adapting their communications array to match the ancient Earth protocols. After several tense minutes, she nodded. "Channel open. Transmitting now. This is Outpost Cillian of the Zul Empire." Kavar spoke carefully. "We seek dialogue. We do not want war." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, crackling through their speakers came a voice speaking perfect Zul. "Stand down. We are not here to conquer." The bridge fell silent. Even Far seemed stunned by the direct response. "Why did you not respond to our initial hails?" Kavar asked. "You fired upon us first," the voice replied. "We responded only when attacked. This has always been our way." Far stepped forward. "This is Admiral Far. You are in Zul territory. Submit to our authority or face the consequences." "Admiral," the voice responded, a hint of amusement in its tone, "you have seen what our single vessel can do to your fleet. Do not speak to us of consequences." "Arrogance," Far spat. "No, Admiral. Reality." The voice paused. "We left this galaxy to avoid meaningless conflict. We return now because we must. If you continue this aggression, we will be forced to act more decisively." Before Far could issue another hostile command, the dark ship emitted a pulse of energy that washed over the entire Zul fleet. In an instant, every weapon system went offline, every ship drifted powerless. Panic erupted on the bridge as officers reported cascading failures across all systems. But notably, life support remained functional, as did communications. "You see," the voice continued, "we could end this now, but we choose not to. We are not your enemies unless you make us so." Ellery stepped forward, seizing the moment. "Who are you? Why have you returned?" "We are what remains of humanity," the voice answered. "We return because the time of isolation is ending. Great changes are coming to this galaxy, and we will not stand by while old mistakes are repeated." "What mistakes?" Kavar asked. "The mistakes that led to our departure. The endless cycles of war and conquest that achieve nothing but suffering. We have evolved beyond such things, and we offer you the same opportunity." General Griaz chose that moment to cut into the communication from Zul Prime. "This is General Griaz of the Zul High Command. Your presence in our space is an act of war. Surrender immediately or face the full might of our empire." "General," the human voice replied calmly, "your full might is currently drifting helpless before a single ship. We have no interest in your surrender or your empire. We seek only to establish a zone of peace." "You're bluffing," Griaz snarled. "No single species can stand against the combined forces of Dash." His words were cut off as 3 more dark shapes materialized on the edge of sensor range. 3 more human ships, identical to the first, emerging from wherever they had hidden themselves. "General," the voice continued, "we number in the thousands. Each ship you see is capable of rendering your entire fleet inoperative without firing a shot. Is this truly the war you wish to fight? The silence that followed was deafening. Even Grias seemed to grasp the futility of further threats. Ellery seized the opportunity. What do you propose? A simple agreement. This sector becomes neutral space. No military vessels, no territorial claims. A buffer zone between your empire and the regions we protect. And in return, Kavar asked, in return, we share knowledge, technology, wisdom earned through centuries of isolation and development. The choice is yours, evolution or extinction. Admiral Farr, his pride wounded, but his tactical sense intact, nodded slowly. I will recommend acceptance of these terms to the High Command. Wise, the human voice replied. We will await your formal response. Until then, your ship's systems will be restored once you retreat to the boundary of Sector 9. True to their word, as the Zul fleet limped back toward Outpost Silien, their systems gradually came back online. The human ships remained in position, silent sentinels watching their departure. Back at the outpost, Kavar and Ellery compiled their reports, knowing that everything was about to change. The Zul Empire would have to adapt to this new reality. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, but as teachers. They could have destroyed us all, Ellery mused as they watched the human ships through the observation window. But they chose restraint. Kavar nodded. Perhaps that's the lesson they're trying to teach us. The formal negotiations took weeks, with representatives from both sides meeting in the neutral space of Sector 9. The humans, when they finally revealed themselves, were both familiar and alien, clearly evolved from the species described in ancient records, but possessed of a calm certainty that made even the most aggressive Zul diplomats pause. In the end, the agreement was reached. Sector 9 became the first neutral zone, jointly monitored by human and Zul observers. Outpost Silien was refitted as a diplomatic station, with Ellery appointed as chief liaison officer. As she prepared for her first formal meeting with the human delegation, Ellery reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. The empire that had once seen itself as the dominant power in the galaxy now faced the humbling reality that they were not alone and not supreme. Kavar found her on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Nervous, excited, she corrected. We're about to learn from a species that mastered interstellar travel while we were still figuring out fire. Can you imagine what they might teach us? Hopefully, how to avoid making the same mistakes they did. The human ship glided silently past the station, its dark hull reflecting the light of distant stars. As they watched, a smaller craft detached from its side, heading toward their docking bay. They're here, Ellery said, straightening her uniform. Time to make history. As they walked toward the docking bay, Kavar recalled the words that had started it all, a casual observation about checking the sector twice. Who could have known that such a routine scan would lead to the most significant event in Zul history? The airlock cycled open, and 3 figures stepped through. Humans, dressed in simple gray uniforms, their faces serene and their eyes holding depths of knowledge accumulated over centuries of isolation. The leader, a woman with silver-streaked hair, stepped forward and extended her hand in the ancient human gesture of greeting. Welcome to the future, she said, her voice carrying the same calm authority they had heard over the communications channel. Shall we begin? And so began a new chapter in galactic history. The Zul Empire, forced to confront its own limitations, chose the path of cooperation over conflict. Other species, watching from afar, began to emerge from their own territories, drawn by the promise of shared knowledge and peaceful coexistence. Months turned to years, and Sector 9 transformed from a backwater assignment into the hub of a new galactic order. The human ships, once objects of fear and mystery, became symbols of hope and progress. Their technology, shared gradually and with careful consideration, revolutionized everything from medicine to energy production. Ellery, now recognized as one of the foremost experts on human culture and technology, often reflected on that first detection. the faint signal that had seemed like nothing more than background noise. She had been right to trust her instincts, to believe that something extraordinary lay hidden in the vast emptiness of space. Kavar, promoted to oversee security for the entire neutral zone, maintained his pragmatic outlook even as wonders became commonplace. He never forgot the lesson learned that day. That true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to refrain from destruction. The dark ships still patrolled the borders of human space, silent guardians ensuring that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. But now they were joined by Zul vessels, former enemies now working together to maintain the peace. And somewhere in the depths of space, in sectors yet unexplored, other ancient civilizations watched and waited, wondering if perhaps the time had come for them too to emerge from isolation. The humans had shown the way, that evolution was possible, that the cycle of conflict could be broken. As Ellery stood on the observation deck of the new Cillian station, watching a joint human-Zul research vessel prepare for its maiden voyage, she smiled at the memory of those early days. It checked the sector twice and found something that changed everything. The human ship hadn't been supposed to be there, but thank the stars it was.